On July 1, 1971, the 26th Amendment was ratified, lowering the voting age from 21 to 18 for all federal, state, and local elections. This amendment achieved ratification faster than any other in American history, just 100 days from congressional approval to final ratification. The speed reflected broad consensus that if 18-year-olds were old enough to be drafted to fight and die for their country, they were old enough to vote. The story of the 26th Amendment is inextricably linked to the Vietnam War. Throughout American history, the voting age had been 21 in most states. This age wasn't constitutionally mandated. States set their own voting requirements, but 21 had become traditional, based on English common law that defined majority at that age. During World War II, some questioned this standard. If 18-year-olds were mature enough to serve in combat, weren't they mature enough to participate in democracy? But serious momentum for change didn't develop until the Vietnam War escalated in the mid-1960s. As the war dragged on and casualties mounted, the injustice became glaring. Young men were being drafted at 18, sent to fight in a controversial war, but couldn't vote for or against the political leaders making decisions about that war. The rallying cry became old enough to fight, old enough to vote. This slogan was simple, powerful, and difficult to refute. Student activists made lowering the voting age a central demand alongside ending the war. They argued that if society trusted 18-year-olds with life-and-death military responsibilities, it should trust them with voting responsibilities. Denying them the vote while drafting them was taxation without representation all over again. They faced the ultimate government obligation without corresponding political rights. In 1970, Congress passed an amendment to the Voting Rights Act that lowered the voting age to 18 for all elections, federal, state, and local. President Richard Nixon signed it, but expressed doubt about its constitutionality. He believed Congress had authority to set voting age for federal elections, but imposing an age requirement on the state and local elections might exceed congressional power. The Supreme Court agreed with Nixon's concerns. In Oregon versus Mitchell, the court ruled that Congress could lower the voting age to 18 for federal elections, but not for state and local elections. This created an administrative nightmare. States would need to maintain two separate voter registration systems, one for voters 18 to 20 who could vote only in federal elections, and another for voters 21 and older who could vote in all elections. This chaos made a constitutional amendment necessary. If Congress couldn't impose an 18-year-old voting age on states legislatively, doing so required amending the Constitution itself. The amendment would override state authority to set voting ages, ensuring uniform 18-year-old voting nationwide. Senator Jennings Randolph of West Virginia had been proposing a voting age amendment since 1942. In 1971, his time finally came. The Senate approved the 26th Amendment on March 10, 1971, with a unanimous 94-0 vote. The House followed on March 23, voting 401 to 19. Opposition was minimal and came primarily from those who believed states should retain authority to set voting ages. Then came the fastest ratification in American history. Minnesota, Connecticut, Delaware, Tennessee, and Washington all ratified on the very day Congress proposed the amendment, March 23, 1971. States competed to ratify quickly, seeing it as demonstrating their commitment to young people. By June 30, 1971, 38 states had ratified more than the 38 needed. Ohio's ratification on June 30th provided the 3/4 majority. North Carolina's ratification on July 1st provided confirmation. The entire process took just over 3 months. This rapid ratification reflected genuine consensus. The Vietnam War had convinced Americans across the political spectrum that 18-year-olds deserved the vote. Conservative arguments about maturity and responsibility were overwhelmed by the simple fairness argument. If you're old enough for military service, you're old enough to vote. Interestingly, despite ratification by 42 states in just over 3 months, 5 states never ratified: Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi, Nevada, and South Dakota. But their refusal was irrelevant. The amendment was already part of the Constitution. The first election under the 26th Amendment came in 1972. Approximately 11 million new voters between 18 and 20 years old became eligible. Youth turnout in that election was lower than expected. Only about 50% of 18 to 20-year-olds voted, compared to higher rates among older voters. This has remained a consistent pattern. Younger voters have lower turnout rates than older voters. Some who supported the amendment expected that enfranchising young people would transform American politics. They anticipated that millions of young voters would support anti-war candidates, progressive policies, and dramatic change. This didn't happen. Young voters have proved as diverse in their views as older voters, and their lower turnout has limited their political impact. Critics point to low youth voter turnout as evidence that 18-year-olds weren't mature enough or interested enough to vote responsibly. They argue the amendment was a mistake driven by unique circumstances of the Vietnam War, rather than sound judgment about civic maturity. Supporters respond that turnout doesn't determine whether people deserve rights. Women's voter turnout was initially lower than men's after the 19th Amendment. But that didn't mean women shouldn't vote. It meant democracy needed time to adjust. Similarly, increasing youth civic engagement is the solution to low turnout, not restricting voting rights. The 26th Amendment teaches several important lessons. First, that democratic rights should align with democratic responsibilities. If government can compel young people to risk their lives in military service, it cannot justly deny them political voice. This principle of alignment between obligation and rights is fundamental to legitimate government. Second, the amendment shows how external events can drive constitutional change. The Vietnam War created urgency and consensus that had been lacking for decades. Sometimes crisis enables reform that normal times would prevent. Third, the rapid ratification demonstrates that when genuine national consensus exists, the amendment process can work swiftly. The 26th Amendment proved the Constitution isn't inflexible. It can adapt quickly when circumstances demand, and public will support change. Fourth, the amendment reminds us that expanding voting rights doesn't guarantee particular political outcomes. Young voters don't vote as a bloc, don't always share common interests, and participate at varying rates. Granting rights is about justice and inclusion, not about advantaging particular political positions. The 26th Amendment also reflects changing views about maturity and responsibility. If 18-year-olds are mature enough for military service, college, marriage, and legal contracts, denying them the vote treats them as second-class citizens. The amendment recognized that legal adulthood should come with full citizenship rights. Some modern debates about lowering the voting age even further to 16 cite the 26th Amendment's logic. If maturity and responsibility justified lowering the age from 21 to 18, why not from 18 to 16? Supporters note that 16-year-olds can drive, work, and pay taxes in most states. Opponents respond that maturity continues developing into the mid-20s, and 18 represents a reasonable balance. As we reflect on the 26th Amendment, we're challenged to think about when young people should be considered full citizens. The amendment answered that question for voting by setting the age at 18, aligning voting rights with military service requirements and general legal adulthood. The 26th Amendment stands as testament to American youth who demanded their democratic rights during a time of national crisis. It proves that when injustice becomes undeniable and consensus emerges around the need for change, America can act quickly to expand liberty and ensure that all who bear the responsibilities of citizenship also enjoy its rights. In recognizing that 18-year-olds are mature enough to participate in democracy, the amendment affirmed a fundamental truth. Self-government requires the participation of all those subject to government authority. By extending the vote to 18-year-olds, America took another step toward fulfilling its founding promise that government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed or all the governed, regardless of age.